Well, I'll open the meeting now. Hello, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. This is the latest November 2025 installment of the Human Rights Universal Global Talk, the last Friday of most months, all things going well. It's hosted, as you probably know, by the Human Rights Centre in Central South University in Human Rights Centre of the Law School in Central South University in Changsha in China. And this Friday, we are very pleased to have Al-Assam, excuse me, and let me see now. So I had your credentials there, Ali. My apologies. Perhaps you would just introduce yourself when you might. Oh, my apologies. I just lost those details there. We're very pleased to have a distinguished contributor today, Ali Al-Assam. So I'm going to hand it over to you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Joe. Thank you. I'm Ali Al-Assam. I'm a founder of Al-Mushtarak, which is a platform for development in Iraq. And one of its main projects now is a very ambitious Iraqi memory project, which is trying to accumulate the history of the Iraqi people for the last 100 years with a view of uniting them on common purpose using AI as a tool. So that's one of them. But also I'm founder of another cooperative called the New Social Cooperative. And I'm friend of an organization in the UK called Friends of Socialist China. So talking about AI, while we are talking about AI and the subject of this presentation, the contrasting the USA and China strategic plans, I would just like to mention that in my view, AI is not just another technological revolution. It is different, actually. It is a meta-revolution. That's why it's so significant for how things develop globally in the next few years. It is actually creation of another revolutions. And talking about industrial revolutions, we used to have industrial revolutions every 100 years. Now it's probably another every 50 years. And usually they come up in the last few revolutions, they come up when you have a convergence of energy, transportation, and communication revolution coming together. And they lead to huge industrial revolutions like the one in Britain, then the USA. And the question is, who is going to lead the next industrial revolution? That's the big question, and that's what frightened the USA thinkers in a very big way. Xi Jinping, in his explanation of the recommendation for the Central Committee of CPC for the next 5 years plan, he says something which is quite interesting. He says we need to focus on the new trends in the one-in-a-century global transformation. So he's talking about, and he talked about it several times, the once in a century. And I think part of it is political, but part of it very much is technological. And maybe he's referring to the AI revolution. So we have in here, if I go to the next one, let's go back. Yeah. We have two strategic plans.
Sorry to interrupt you, Ali. I'm not sure if you're that's sharing. I can't see it on my screen.
What can you see on yours? What can you see?
I can see you, but I can't see the slides.
Oh, you can't see the slides. Anybody else can see the slides?
I can see them, yes.
Oh, you can see them. Okay. Maybe. Okay. Sorry. Yeah, I can't.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody else can see the slides?
I can see the slides too.
Oh, I see them now. My apologies.
Yeah.
Ali. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So really, we have. If we look at the two strategic plans, one, the USA one, which was proclaimed on 20th of July 2025, the White House released America's AI Action Plan. a federal roadmap with 90 plus actions and the 3 pillars. The US plan, one of them is accelerate innovation. Secondly, build AI infrastructure in terms of data centers, chips, grid. And 3, lead internationally via standard alliances. That was following an executive order 14179. And it is under the main title, which is removing barriers to American leadership in AI. So I won't go into details. I'll go to it later on, but this is the US plan in July, followed by the China one in August, where it was actually not an executive order by the president with a couple of advisors. It was the State Council, the highest body in China. August 25, the State Council issued an opinion on in-depth implementation of the Artificial Intelligence Plus Action, AI Plus Plan. And it directs 6 priority domains: AI Plus, in science, technology, industrial consumption, people's well-being, governance, global cooperation, and set phase adoption of it by 2027. So these are the 2 plans. I'll go through them in the next slides. So if we so let's see the contrast between the two ones. If we talk about the US plan, Trump in announcing it, it's very clear where it comes from. AI is, Trump says, is a national security imperative for the United States to achieve and maintain unquestionable and unchallenged global technological dominance. Okay, so it is really about unquestioned global dominance. This is the main thrust of the AI plan by the USA. And the focus is on military, on security, and global power. And the means of it, as the claim is, defunding R&D, alliances, and control. So the US, wants to exploit. So really, the US wants to export is what they call it full AI stack. So they want to give a full AI stack, complete package of AI, which includes hardware, models, applications, and standards to allies and allies only. So the way they see the AI technology dominated by the US as a full stack given to AIs and AIs only, not to the global world, and the main purpose of it is unquestionable global dominance. So the emphasis is very much on security. And that's the main thrust, very clearly stated, no ambiguity about the purpose of it is to regain or to maintain US global dominance. And this is the essence of the US plan, very clearly in their proclamation. While the China plan has a completely different title. The main title of the China plan is to reshape the paradigm of a human production and life. And it's a directive straight from the State Council, with no additional credits to individuals or ministries. The final paragraph tasks the National Development and Reform Commission with coordination rather than any specific policy portfolio. And it came as part of a huge study over months. So it is not something that was done in a hurry. It's a huge variety of inputs from all corners of Chinese states likely went into the Chinese plan. It's very well studied and shows the documents comprehensive to the point of being overstretched, covering AI's coming role in everything from industrial R&D to methods in philosophical research. Reshape the paradigm of a human production and life, connecting AI policy to what I think is the People's Republic of China Marxist-Leninist ideological underpinning. Eventually, it seemed to imply AI integration might lead China closer to the realization of full economic revolution under socialism. So it's part of the socialist dream of advanced industrial revolution with very high productivity. That means prosperity for everyone, as what Chinese Communist Party says now. So really, when you look at it, first of all, it is completely different in the way it was conceived by a huge part of the Chinese state and society. And the focus is not security. They don't mention security even once. It's all about economy, society, daily life, about AI being part of every aspect of daily life in China, including governance, which is very interesting. So integration with governance, industry, lifestyle. So there is a complete contrast between the US plan and the China plan. And if you look at the timeline for both of them, if we look at the US plan on the left, this is a continuation of what Trump declared in his first presidency in 2019, when he had an executive order launching the American AI initiative. Then 2023, Biden continued with it. There was the CHIP, and there was the RIA plans, all part of the executive order, part of that plan, investment in infrastructure and IT and AI. And then comes up the national plan, updated national plan in this summer. Scaling investment, energy, focus, global competitiveness. While the China strategy, actually, this plan is a continuation of the 2017 plan, where in 2017 they talked about a new generation AI development plan launched. 2020, integration into economic and society, smart cities and governance, and that was implemented successfully. And 2025 midpoint review, which is this plan. It is actually a review of the original 2017. Boost in infrastructure, governance, integration, international standard role, and to achieve by 2030 to be target to be world leader in AI. So really the aim to be world leader in AI by 2030. So this is the contrast between the US strategy, the US plan and the China plan. And if you look at the China plan in some details, midpoint was 2025, then expansion 2026, AI talent and educational reforms. 2027 is important because it says that target 70% of AI integration in key sectors. Deployment across healthcare, transport, industry, in a very big way. So it's very ambitious because we are in 2025. So we are really talking about a year and a half to 2 years by which it goes to 70% of all aspects. And then by 2030, target 90% AI integration in all aspects of society. So it's a very ambitious plan. And as I said, it's studied very well. It's been studied very well. And if you look at the proclamation and what's happening globally and in China, you could see that they are moving steadily in this direction with a complete state control and state direction and coordination in the way there is investment in all aspects of the AI plan. But let's not underestimate the US depth of knowledge. I mean, the US, is leader in AI technology still. And because it's the result of a huge investment in research and investment over the years, it goes back to 1950. So really, what the US have in terms of momentum is not as a result of current policies, but as a result of an in-depth development of the technology over the years. So 1956, there was the Dartmouth Conference, where the term AI was coined in Dartmouth College, birth of symbolic and neural AI schools right from there, 1956, 16, and continuous investment in R&D, huge investment, 1980, logical, analytical AI sort, heuristics, expert systems, NLP, vision. 1980, 22, there was focus on neural networks, and learning systems, deep learning foundation, all the way 1980, 2010. So it started in 1950s and quickly split into two schools: the logical, analytical, and neural, in terms of the way to handle AI. Most work in 1960 to 1980, about 20 years, focused on the logical analytical. And neural remained low fire and low investment until 1980, where the investment in the neural started. Achievement of the 20 years included 1960 sort merge, heuristics, and 1970, 1980 expert system language processing using analytical methods, vision systems. And late 1980s to 2010, neural networks, modern learning system language processing using LLM. So one should not underestimate the depth of the R&D in the US, which gave it its leadership in AI, which is being challenged by China very strongly now, and in very important sectors. We'll talk more about it. So if you look at the flow of investment and applications in billions between the year 2019 2024, updated US flows showing a total of 430 billion investment in AI, with economic productivity as a new output, while the China flow was about 150 billion during these years, with outputs in economic productivity. Of course, the China one was much more targeted and achieved bigger results. But in terms of sums, there was more US investment in AI for these years than in China. Interpretation: the visual comparison reveals two contrasting investment philosophies, if you look at it. In the United States, AI funding flows primarily through market mechanisms and private capital, with public R&D and military programs providing strategic direction. It concentrated on commercial AI, digital infrastructure, and defense applications, mostly commercial AI and digital and defense, actually. By contrast, China's AI plus strategy integrates public, state enterprises, and private investment into a unified framework, much more organized, directed towards smart cities, industrial automation, and social governance. While total investment volumes are smaller, the flows are tightly aligned with national development goals, linking technological progress to social prosperity and collective productivity. So there is a complete contrast between the two in terms of the direction and the planning and the result of the two. Okay, so and then if we talk about the regulation aspect of both, regulation of AI, which is really very critical in the way AI are used for good and not for bad. USA market-driven, big tech, the AI is big tech who wants profit, so regulation is not important. And regulation, of course, there is talk about it, but it's fragmented across various agencies of the US government and the federal states and so on, and which give a lot of hindrance to progress. And executive orders make most of the directions, and the main role of the regulation thanks to global role alliances. So they want global role is provided as a full stack, hardware and software, and mostly to the G7 countries. That's specified very clearly. It's not a global thing. While the China, it's still social regulation is very, very clearly social, state-led, socialist guidelines. Regulation, there are mandatory rules on how AI could be used in terms of algorithms and generative AI laws, and approach licensing, integration with governance. And a global role, they have the Global AI Initiative, and now there's the AI Plus. And it's now becoming increasingly tied up to the UN, to work with the UN, and a global, so it started as a China initiative, now is much more global. So there is a difference in regulation and the approach of the two things. And I want to talk about techno-feudal. Not everybody agree with the term techno-feudals. Also, Yanis, the previous finance minister of Greece, coined this thing, techno-feudals. They make the shot, actually, and it's very clearly. They're the one who are doing the investment and who are reaping the benefit. And the AI strategy is led by the big tech. And that's very clear. So a little regulation on AI, because they are putting a huge investment and they want to get the revenue from these investments very quickly. So it strives for huge profit from valuation, unbelievable valuation. And if we have time, I will go through the figures, but I could send you the figures separately. Uncertainty on comparable wealth creation. So the valuation is huge, but whether it will create the wealth and budget of it is very much in question. But certainly the big seven are driving the whole AI strategy in the US. Also, it's unsustainable because while the technology of AI and technology is very much horizontal and distributed, the ownership is very, very much vertical. One person will own trillions. So there is a quite unsustainable model between a vertical control and horizontal technology. And that's the problem. And the Nobel Prize winning economist, Darren Acemoglu, who is an MIT professor of economics, in his recent FT article called "The Feudal, the Real Threat to Prosperity," he calls them the feudal as well, and is what he called them the mega corporations dominate. That's what he thinks. Foreign debt will increase from 36 to 50 trillion US dollars with a possible collapse in 2030. That's his prediction. All top 7 R&D centers on AI and security. Another interesting aspect, all these 7, they invest a lot in AI and security in Israel, with over 40 billion invested in Israel. And they all have big research centers, and that probably explain the US love for Israel despite the genocide in Gaza. Okay, and I have the full figures for all of them: Intel, Microsoft, Google, Amazon, Apple, Meta, and NVIDIA. They all have research centers and they have big investment in Israel. Okay, so when we talk about US AI, it is an innovation for dominance, but it is fragile. And this is really very critical. It's fragile in terms of energy, capital, rules, and geopolitics. So although they are trying to create these huge data centers with generative AI and all this emphasis, to get AI successful in society on an industrial level, you need many conditions to be in place, which does not exist in the USA. And that's the subject of very detailed analysis. So that even the president of NVIDIA say China have already won on AI, even who was one of the big 7. So the US plan wants global dominance, but there is a huge demand for energy in massive data centers. One Texas data center requires the equivalent of 5 nuclear power stations. How long would it take to build them? And when could they get the power from? And even if they get it from gas, there is big problem in infrastructure and gas turbines and so on. So there is a question mark about meeting the energy demand. And there is a grid shortages, there is rising costs, there is climate conflict. And also there is a big shortages in skills and technical skills for this big investment. Private investment, venture capital, and big tech, risk, volatility, downturns, over-reliance on private sector. You've already seen probably the news over the last 2 weeks. I mean, I've done this presentation about 2 months ago, in the last 2 weeks, where everybody's talking about the AI bubble because they are not sure about the return on investment. So I think the US, although they want to dominate in the AI thing, because of their focus on these few massive data centers controlled by these big AIs, with no direct or no clear policy on planning it for the whole society as an industrial policy. And because of the shortages of industrial skills and infrastructure and energy, there is a big question mark about whether the US actually can dominate in AI as it wants to. And I have lots of paragraphs, but here, for example, one useful one about HR bottlenecks, clean energy. So you could see there is this use about bottlenecks in skills, in battery cell technology, industrial mechatronics technicians, welder and fitters. There's a complete analysis of the shortage of skills, not easily created without a clear planning, which does not exist in the US. So this is one of the biggest problems that we have. While the US have this fragmented strategy on AI, the China one, in my view, is completely different. It's based on the reshape of human production and life and prosperity through planning, governance, society, the whole focus on society. So, while you have China vision reshape, it applies everywhere. So there is a machine-human partnership, very much focused on the philosophy of a human-machine partnership. There's ethnical cooperation models, integration in industry of daily life. This is all being considered and being implemented across all aspects of society. AI augmented human work, and you can see it if you are in China and you look at what they do. Then investment in scale. So there is an investment. This is the investment in various long-term investment, and then the outcome, modernization of economy and society. So there is a very ambitious, well considered plan for dominance by 2030. And then there's a lot of focus, if you look at their plans, on governance and social stability. So there's the smart cities, there's AI assistant public services, social management systems. So this is the difference, really. It goes into all aspects. And one example, for example, you see in technology like robotics, like EV, electric vehicles, like 5G. They are all complementary technology coming together to make AI available on an industrial scale on all aspects of China's society, including healthcare, prosperity, quality of life, education transformation. You could see it if you read their plans in details. Then there is the Global AI Initiative, which was proclaimed a couple of years ago, I think, or last year. And this is really now implemented by the AI Plus, which says, okay, for AI to succeed, it shouldn't be just a Chinese phenomena, it must be a world phenomena. And Xi Jinping says we should advance the development of artificial intelligence for the benefits of humanity, uphold the concept of community with a shared future, and ensure that the fruits of AI are shared by all countries. This is very much in practice. And you can see it in the big investment that China is doing in Africa and in Egypt and other countries. So they divided the AI Plus into industrial application, cultural prosperity, technological advancement, public well-being, and industrial applications. Very well defined of how the global South should actually have AI. And the emphasis is that AI is not a monopoly by China. DeepSeek and all the AI things are open source, and the technology is very much transported to the global South. So in summary, Kai-Fu Lee, one of the world's most prominent AI scientists and investor, says China is on track to dominate consumer artificial intelligence applications and robotics manufacturing within years, but the United States will maintain a substantial lead in enterprise AI adoption and cutting-edge research, according to Kai-Fu Lee. So this is one of the estimates. Okay, and the question is whether AI is used for harm, as we've seen in Gaza and the genocide, or for good. That's a big thing to consider. And there are lots of data in here, which we have time we could go through, which I used it as a justification for saying that actually the US effort in making AI dominate has huge obstacles, while it doesn't exist in China. So this is my belief in summary that there is a fifth industrial revolution with the AI center of it, but it's not happening in Europe; it's happening in China, and that's the big difference, and that's a huge implication to geopolitics and everything that's happening around us. So we are living in good times and we are living in bad times. And the bad times is that, which is not the subject of this lecture, is that the bad times is the US trying to throttle China because they can't compete directly through wars in West Asia. And that's the bad times. So thank you very much.
Thanks very much. That was Al-Assam talking about AI and China, US developments and rivalries indeed. So thank you very much for that. If you've just recently tuned in, this is the November 2025 installment of the Human Rights Universal Global Open Talk, which we have on the last Friday of most months. So what I am going to do, and this is Joe Finnerty, incidentally, from University College Cork in Ireland. So what I'm going to do now is open the discussion to the floor. Since I'm just doing this from my phone, I can't see everybody simultaneously on my screen. So feel free to come in.
But if nobody else wants to begin, one question I have always in this context is there are scientists, whatever it is. How far can they be in control, and how far do they actually want to be in control of something? I think it was Einstein, or it had been linked to Einstein's work, who had been involved in the nuclear energy and finally the atomic bomb. And one of the arguments is we as scientists, we have to do it. We are not, and this is just the matter of responsibility of science and the possibility actually to control it, to control the outcome. And this is something where I'm wondering, whatever the politicians do, and I'm now talking about politicians and those who are becoming involved in politics, like Musk and all these people, how far is there conflict that actually cannot be solved, and where we have possibly to say as well, fortunately cannot be solved, because there is this ambition to make progress in medical research and all these things. And I think it would be a little bit naive to say this is something that is completely out of the consideration of the United States. So how to deal with this, the third actor, if you want?
Yes. It's a difficult question. Of course, AI can mean different things. It could be machine learning, could be applied in very specific areas, for example, in diagnostic in medicine, where AI could be very useful. But then there is this new generative AI with large language models, where it can answer any question and can create a narrative that represent the narratives of the data that was used, where it could be dangerous or it could be used in defense. But certainly AI as a technology could be, and it is being extremely useful, but it needs regulation and control by society, not by scientists as such. And I think the scientists can. I think Chomsky, when he said it a few years ago that AI is more dangerous than anything else, because he was looking only at the U.S. and he was looking where it was clear that the U.S. was in absolute dominance on AI, and he could see these big techno corporations striving for profit with no regulation, and he could see the danger. The dangers are very real if you look at them only. But since then, with DeepSeek and so on, that monopoly has been broken, and AI has the potential of being a very useful tool for the whole of the global South. In agriculture and development and health and education. So I think there are dangers like any other technology, but it's up to society to control it. The scientists can't do much, not like nuclear weapon. The scientists can only advance it, can develop the technology. And if they do, and if the people who want to use it for peaceful purposes don't use it, then of course, what we call them financial capital will use it for its own gains and for dominance in the world. And so, of course, it's a question of who uses it. It's up to society to do it. Now, the global AI initiative is very important, started by China, but now it's much more global with the UN increasingly on side. And I think that's a very important phenomenon that should be supported to use it more for development. But if I may add, I mean, even the AI scientists, they say we don't understand fully how the large language models work, because it is these neural networks are developing of its own and coming up surprising results sometimes that even the scientists who created it don't know what it is. So you need that control on it, of course.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else got any questions or observations? Can I ask a question, Ali? It's just in kind of
yes,
follows on from what's just been discussed. Just as you say, scientists sometimes don't understand everything about how AI works, and that would apply, I guess, both globally in the US or in China or in other countries where it's being developed. Another big question mark, of course, is the impact of AI on various sectors. And even though there can be, a lot of planning and policy development, it's hard to forecast the future in many ways. So I'm just thinking of one of the big dangers that's often been talked about in relation to AI, apart from the science fiction scenarios. A clear possible danger is its negative impact on employment. I know when any revolutionary new technology is developed, there's always questions over what its employment consequences will be. But there's quite a lot of reasons to think that a lot of jobs in a lot of sectors will be lost, and that's hard to plan for, to calculate, to control. So I'm just wondering, in the same, the China plan, is that factored in? To what extent is it addressed?
Yes, it's very interesting, because if AI continues to develop and robotics continue to develop in a big way, and you have then very high productivity, and very high creation of wealth in society, whether in agriculture or industry, what you would expect is that the wealth accumulation in society will be very high, which will lead to the prosperity for all. So really increase productivity and increase wealth through AI. It means probably that people, instead of working 5 hours a week, 5 days a week, they'll work 3 days a week. The type of a human activity will change, definitely. The type of skills you need by a human will change. But actually increase productivity in society where that society doesn't have a huge exploitation of people will lead eventually to what Mars and Angels have predicted, where they say advanced technology will lead to loss of wealth, so everybody can benefit from it. And you need, when you have prosperity in the whole of society. But if you look in capitalist terms, where there is the surplus value of workers and so on, the capitalists might be bad news for them because they can't create wealth anymore. But for society, which is organized differently, increase wealth from technology can mean prosperity for all. And actually, it will need to different industrial relationships from what we have in the West in general. So it's very interesting how it will develop. But actually, what I'm just saying, it means much more wealth in society.
Yeah, just if I can, I understand your points. However, I'd be somewhat politely skeptical about large-scale social engineering of this kind, and the extent to which, well, for example, just think of the timeline involved, the length of time to transition from where we are now to hopefully beneficial impacts of AI into some future where, there's reduced standards of living go up, but the labor required from people goes down. And I'm just thinking of, say, the transition from in China, for example, from rural development to, or the movement of people from rural areas to cities, and the tremendous disruption and challenges that causes, and outside of the control of any particular organization or political agency. So if that rural to urban transition has posed such challenges, I can only imagine what the transition to a more fuller embrace of AI, the type of upheavals that will cause.
Yes. So it is a question of not the AI replacing human, but AI of being assistance to human. And that's why you talk about machine human collaboration. And this is very much talked about in China, by the way, about this collaboration between the two. So if you think in any work group, in any organization, you have AI agents, whether they are software or robotics, working with the human and assisting them, then it will change the quality of a human productivity in a completely different way. But he's not the human; he or she is not being replaced; it's being assisted. So it means different job specifications, but it will mean higher productivity and higher wealth. And I think then that will impose a lot of challenges on the way society is organized. And they must be thinking about it in countries like China, I'm sure, where they plan ahead and they could see the effect of it on society. You won't see it in the US, because the US, you have these top 7. He says, look, my shares were $1 trillion. How do I make it $1.5 trillion? That's his concern. So that's the only planning they have. So they use advanced technology for this, but there is some thinking in the academic circles and so on about how it affects society, but really it's not affected in policy. In countries where they are thinking about the future, I mean, in China, for example, they are encouraging now more than 2 people in a family. They are encouraging because they are having declining population, which is a big problem. So with declining population, having robotics and AI could be a good thing, not a bad thing, because it will help them in filling some of the skills gap that they need. I'm not saying there is a magical, very simple, easy solutions. What I'm saying is that this technology we can't avoid like other technology. The difference between it is, as I said, it's a meta technology. It's really revolutionary because it affects every other technology that we could think of. The consequences of it is very difficult to predict, but the consequences of having, we always talk about AI replacing humans. AI, if it's used for bad, like in defense and in war and so on, then of course it's very bad. But AI, being machine that depends on facts, actually could be quite rational. So used properly, AI could add rationality to our thinking. One can't think of it that way. Because it's based on facts. I mean, we develop an AI, and if I tell an AI, okay, well, look, you analyze this thing, but the human next to you analyzed it differently. Tell us, where did you go wrong or where did you go right? And AI will come and analyze very objectively where it went wrong, without any qualms about it, and where it went better. And that could be quite positive. So I think AI used in the right direction could be very positive to our thinking and our planning in society. But certainly it will increase wealth creation, which is good.
Thank you.
Question?
Mm.
Can I ask a question?
Ivan. Oh no,
yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you very much, Professor, for your very impressive presentation. I think we learn a lot. And in particular concerning you mentioned about AI in the public well-being, for example, right? And you also show the United States and with China to comparison. But concerning about AI in shaping public well-being, so how could you think in the future if they're possible to China and United States to collaborate, more than competition, right? Because nowadays we talk about ChatGPT, DeepSeek, it's more like a competition way. But do you think there was any opportunity in the future that, both can be more in the collaborative attitude, in particularly for shaping the public well-being aspect? Thank you.
Yes, that would be great. And this should be the case, really. I mean, if you look at DeepSeek, for example, and the open source AI from Alibaba, and it is on US servers available for free to all US developers. And actually, majority of US developers in AI who write applications they downloading it freely from US servers and using it for so. And also academics, if you are in the academy, you see academics freely collaborate on research and development across the US and China and Europe and elsewhere. So this should be the case, really. It's not a question of winning thing. The problem with the US approach, as I put in my slide, is very clearly saying the purpose of AI to maintain US dominance. And that's the worry. And this is what China and the UN are saying, look, come on, let's move away from that. Let's move away towards collaboration and using AI for everywhere, which is all what we want. The problem with the US approach is talk very clearly about US dominance and about being very, so for example, take example of Iraq, where I come from and where we are developing system in Iraq is USA will prevent Iraq from using NVIDIA chips. Because they say, you are not stable enough, you are not good enough, you are closer to Iran, we won't give it to you. Exactly like preventing NVIDIA from selling its chip to China. So with this attitude from the US, we have a problem. So we have to persuade the US and put pressure on the US that they should collaborate for the goodness of everyone, including the US. That should be the aim. It's not a question of somebody dominating the other. Really, we want AI to be used for good across all of humanity.
Thank you so much, Professor.
Yeah. Ali, I also have a question for you.
Sure. Hello, Joan. Yeah.
Yeah. So during your presentation, you mentioned that there is a dynamic between the vertical control and the horizontal technology, right? So we have also noticed that in US. So the US they applied AI strategy that is led by the big tech companies, and but in comparison. China, we would say that even though there's like a stronger or regulation on the big tech, but still we could say that the big tech company, they have a very increasing the power in terms of their the society and also the AI strategy and others. So we also have like a lot of discussion over this issue, whether the traditional state power. The traditional state power is really sufficient to to control the AI development, or whether there is a kind of like new form of power, for instance, the algorithm power, which could be kind of like developed in parallel with state power. So I think these could be kind of like the one aspect, echoed with your viewpoint that there is a conflict between the vertical and the vertical control and also the horizontal technology. I want to hear that. What is your reflection on this? This kind of like a new form of power, but and also the conflicts between the two, the controller, the vertical controller, the traditional one, and also this kind of new horizontal technologies development.
Yes, that's very interesting, Joanne. So in China, for example, if you remember a few years ago, like 4 or 5 years ago, where China, the regulators went in to reduce the power of the big tech at one time, including preventing some public releases of the big tech. They went in the 2017 plan, for example. There was a conscious direction by the Communist Party of China to reduce the power of big tech and actually to channel the investment in AI into hundreds and thousands of small companies. And so there was a quite conscious decision to reduce the power of the big tech. And this is going to remain, as you said, between the reducing the power of the big tech and having AI quite distributed, and the AI technology, and between what's happening in the US, where actually it is very clear the big tech they control the shots, of the policy, and they control society, because of the way capitalism works in the USA. So this is a challenge which is going to continue. But I think in China they are aware of it. But there are no guarantees, of course. Society develops in different ways. But I think in China the way decisions are made, the way it's taken over years, the way the power is distributed, the way the Communist Party is organized, possibility of a few big tech barons, like in the US, controlling state power and policy, looks remote at present. But this conflict is going to continue, actually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I think we'll need to wrap up the conversation here. Thank you to everybody who asked questions and made comments. Thank you for people who've attended, and for people who will tune into the YouTube channel where the recording will be available. But most of all, I'd like to thank our guest presenter today at this Human Rights Universal Global last Friday of the month open talk, Ali Al-Assam. So Ali, thank you so much for your interesting thoughts
Thank you.
on AI in China and the United States. This is Joe Finnerty from University College Cork in Ireland, signing off, and we'll see you all next time. Thank you.